Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our Stress Less, Live More online workshop. 84% of the world's population are experiencing stress, and that statistic was actually pre-COVID. Stress is something that I think we've become all too familiar with. So really the purpose of tonight's workshop is to give you an opportunity to hit pause, have a bit of a look at your life. What are some of the things that are causing you stress, and how we can actually start to manage and reduce some of those stresses. So we do have a little workbook that you can follow through, or you can just make some notes to really help you to think about what you're doing, because it's great to listen into a workshop, but really unless we make some changes afterwards, then it's not really, our time well spent. So my name's Sharon Gleeson. I'm a health coach. So my background is actually in the corporate world. And, as a busy mum, I know what it's like trying to keep all the balls in the air. So juggling a career, looking after children, trying to raise a healthy family, but also trying to find time for exercise, to prepare healthy meals, and generally live a healthy and well-balanced life. So I'm really passionate about helping people who might be experiencing similar struggles, really want to live a healthy lifestyle, but maybe feel a little bit overwhelmed with all the information out there. I work with you to actually help you to figure out exactly where you're at now, where you'd love to be, and help you on your health journey. And I'm joined by my beautiful colleague, Ruth Hull, and she'll introduce herself.
Thank you, Sharon. Hi, everyone. I'm Ruth Hull. I am trained as a homeopathic doctor and a health coach. And my main interest is helping people who are struggling with chronic fatigue, with exhaustion, with burnout. I use a variety of different therapies to really help people get back their energy and take control of their health. So that's me. And yeah, Sharon and I, we run the Health Lounge. We do a lot of live workshops in Perth, as well as online workshops to just try and help people take control of their health through understanding what's going on in their bodies and through educating themselves. So welcome to tonight. We're going to talk about stress, and yeah, hopefully you'll get something out of tonight. So firstly, to begin with, what we're going to do is we'd like to do a little visualization with all of you. So if you could just sit quietly and make sure you're comfortable and close your eyes for a few seconds. I'm going to close my eyes as well so that I can't see you. Not that I can anyway. But close your eyes and take a few nice deep breaths in and out. Just breathe in and out. And in your mind, I want you to go to somewhere this is not very nice. I want you to go back to an experience where you have been stressed, where you really, really have had something stressful happen. It could be anything. Just go back to the first thing that pops into your mind and feel that stress. Don't worry, you're not going to be here long. Just feel that stress. Just take a minute to feel what's going on in your body. What is your heart rate like? Is your mouth dry? How are you feeling in your tummy? What about your muscles? Are you sweating? Anything like that? Now open your eyes and just think about it for a minute. If you've got a pen and paper, I want you to write down how you felt. Just write down the physical things, write down the emotional, write down what was going through your mind, and really, really write down what you felt. Now, we're just going to give you a minute to do that. Just quietly write down what was going on. Okay, all right. That's the only stressful, horrible thing you have to do today. Okay, that's it. Everything else will be much nicer and more enjoyable from now onwards. But basically, what we want you to do is to be very aware of how you feel when you're under stress. And I'm just going to explain to you what the stress is doing in your body, because it's really important to realize what is going on when you're under stress. When you are under stress, there's a number of different mechanisms that sort of take over to help protect you and to help your body either get out of the situation by running away or to stay and fight. I'm sure you've all heard of the fight or flight mechanism. Some of us even experience the freeze mechanism, which is quite a severe state of stress. But when we go into stress, a number of stress hormones are secreted into our bodies, and they all have the effect of raising our heart rate, of decreasing blood supply and oxygen supply to your non-vital processes such as digestion or reproduction. We get a lot more blood sugars, a lot more glucose in our blood going towards our muscles so that we can run away or fight. So there's all these processes that happen, and short term it's to help us get out of a situation. So when you were in that visualization a second ago, that very uncomfortable, horrible visualization, maybe your heart was beating fast, maybe your mouth went dry, you may have felt strange in your stomach, your muscles may have tensed up. All of that is that fight or flight mode, and it's all hormones going around your body and neurotransmitters as well. Short term, that's good, gets us out of a situation. But long term, if that carries on for too long, it's really, really detrimental to our health. So cortisol is a hormone that is secreted when we're under chronic stress, and it wreaks havoc on our bodies, especially if it's secreted in a specific rhythm. And if it's secreted at the wrong time, then you're not going to be able to sleep. You can experience extreme fatigue during the day. Cortisol is an immunosuppressant, so it suppresses your immune system as well. And long term, you can end up with a lot of very, very deep-seated chronic conditions if you have too much cortisol in your body for too long. Also, your nutrient absorption decreases. So a minute ago, I mentioned that when we're in a state of fight or flight, we don't really need to digest our food. So the energy goes away from the digestive processes, and therefore our nutrients aren't absorbed so well. So if we're under chronic stress, if we're under stress for a long time, and often we are, and people don't even realize it, but if you're under stress for a long time, your digestive system is not going to function so well. And over time, you're going to start being nutrient deficient. So it's very, very important that you deal with your stress. Sometimes people eat really, really well, but they're still not very healthy. And often that's because their digestive system just isn't working properly because of chronic stress. And we also excrete a lot more nutrients than we should. And our gut flora, our gut microbiome is really, really affected by stress. And we actually do a workshop on gut health and the gut microbiome, but your microbiome is essential for maintaining your health, your mental health, as well as your physical health. So it's very, very important that we look after all our gut microbiome or our gut flora. When we're under chronic stress, we tend to retain a lot more salt or sodium, and we also our ability to regulate our body temperature changes. So I often say this to people who are trying to lose weight. You can't lose weight when you're under extreme stress, because your body it's an instinctive thing for your body to hold on to weight, to hold on to that energy, because you're under stress. So if you want to lose weight, then relax. That's the secret. Be happy. When you're happy, you're not going to hold that excess weight. And you're also not going to go for all those lovely like pieces of cake and all that comfort food as well. And blood cholesterol also increases. So instead of just going onto medication to reduce your blood cholesterol, look at your stress. Work out what stresses are going on in your life and take control of them. And that's really what today's workshop is about. Is unfortunately, we're not here to give you all the answers. Sharon and I also experience stress a lot of the time, But what is really important is to be aware of what is causing you stress in your life. And there are the big stresses that I think we are all aware of: finances, relationships, work. Those are major stresses. They're things that often cause us stress. But what we want you to do just for a minute is to write down other things that may be causing you stress in your life. Just the small things that you don't really realize, you don't necessarily think of as stressful, but think of your day to day. Are there things that have irritated you or slowed you down or worried you or made you panic for a second? Just think of the little simple things. And these are things that you often can control. And if you can eliminate these or get control of all these little stresses, then you'll find it much easier to cope with the big stresses. So, Sharon, do you have any ideas of little stresses in life?
Got plenty.
Yes.
I think sometimes we're our own worst enemies. So I'm someone who, I'm not lazy, but I often will run late because I'm trying to do too much. And then that causes stress, not only on me, but sometimes, the people that I'm taking, usually my children or my husband, because, I've been trying to cram too much in, then I'm rushing around at the last minute. And that causes stress, not just on me, but also on other people. So I've actually learned to slow down. What I do now is I make sure I'm ready. And then if I've got spare time, then I can do some other things rather than sort of trying to go to the last minute and then, rush around at the end. So that's one that I definitely is how you manage your time, I think, is a good one.
Yeah. And for me, I don't know if everyone could hear my dog barking a second ago. That causes me big stress. Yeah. And that's one thing I can't control. But like Sharon says, little things, managing your time. If you can start to actually manage your time and make little adjustments, it'll be easier to deal with stress. One thing that causes me a lot of stress, Sharon always laughs at this because Sharon's super organized with food, but I get to the end of the day, I'm very tired, had enough, the kids are hungry, I open the fridge and I don't have a clue what to cook for dinner. And that it's a small stress. It's not a big thing, but when you're tired and the dog's barking at the gate and the cats are hungry and the kids are hungry, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I've got to try and make a meal out of this. So that's something small, but if you could be better organized, then it would just completely remove that stress. So these are little habits that we want to try and, but that I know I'm always trying to work on. If you can get little routines and little habits that eliminate certain stresses, it'll make it so much easier.
I know another one, like if in the morning, everyone's getting ready and the clothes aren't ironed and you're running around trying to iron a shirt, or I know my one is, I'm hopeless with my wardrobe. So I'll get in the wardrobe and I'll be trying to find an outfit and I can't figure out what to wear. They're just little things, but again, they can just all cause that stress. So, sometimes even deciding what you're going to wear the night before, making sure it's all ironed, just little things that can help your day run smoothly. So I guess, tuning into those things. I mean, as Ruth said, we're often aware of the big things that cause us stress, but some of those little things that irritate us during the day, it might be that your car's a mess and you need to get a bag for the rubbish or whatever it is, just all those little things. Maybe just try and tune into those things, because as Ruth said, those are things that we can control. Some things we can't control, but the ones that we can control and where we can put good habits in, we really want to try and do that wherever we possibly can.
Yeah. So what we'd like you guys to do now is to get a pen and a piece of paper and take 5 minutes to look at your life and try and write down maybe 3 or 4 little stresses, not the big ones, but the small ones. We'll just give you a minute. 2 minutes. Okay, I think that's long enough, Sharon.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Although
so Sharon's going to talk us through the 3 main types of stress.
I think the other thing too is sometimes it can be really good to keep like a little journal or a notebook and just write down the things that are causing you stress. And then obviously, you know, sometimes if there's 10 things that you need to change in your life, if you try and change them all at once, you know, we often blow up, but maybe there's one. Sometimes just starting with one thing and fixing that, it can have a flow-on effect to other things. So maybe just, you might have written some things down now, perhaps just try and really be mindful over the coming week of what are the things that are causing you stress. Write them down and don't try and tackle them all at once, but maybe you can just sort of, you know, pick one and work on that for a while and then pick another one. You might find that some of them actually fall off along the way. I find that's a really good way to make change is, Ruth will laugh at me, but my favorite saying is small hinges between big doors. You know, we don't want to try and change everything all at once, but little changes built up over time can actually make a really big difference in your life. Like I know it certainly has for me. Okay, so let's have a look at 3 different types of stress because it's really good to have an understanding of the different things that cause stress in our life. Some of them we are conscious of, but some we're not conscious of. So today is really about just giving you an opportunity to think about some of the things that you might not be aware of. So obviously, normally if we were in a workshop, we'd ask for some suggestions on these, but with physical stress, some examples of physical stress can be nutrition. So poor nutrition, too much sugar, too many artificial colors and flavors and sweeteners, the wrong type of fats, all of those sort of things, overeating, undereating can cause physical stress on your body. So nutrition is a really big one. You know, if you're someone who might be experiencing an injury or pain, constant pain or an injury to your body, again, can put your body into a state of physical stress. Is there anything you wanted to add in there on that one, Ruth?
I think the blood sugars as well. Do you want to talk about that as well?
No, you can go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think a major physical stress that we all forget about, and that I see a lot of teenagers especially struggling with, is an imbalanced blood sugar. So what I think we tend to forget, or people just don't know, is that when you eat something sweet, for example, if you have a Coke or even a peanut, even a sandwich, you know, just like a refined carbohydrate, it sends our blood sugars up. When we eat it, it turns into glucose in our blood, and it gives us a nice little burst of energy, a nice little burst of glucose or blood sugars. But this can very, very quickly drop. It's not sustained for a long time. And when our blood sugars drop, our bodies go into a little stress reaction. So if you have blood sugars going up and down, you're actually just causing lots and lots of little like mini fight or flight scenarios in your body. You're actually, causing a stress reaction every time. And if you just look at how, like Sharon and I are both mums of teenagers, and I just sometimes look at what they eat. They love or drink. They love going to McDonald's and having those dreadful frozen Cokes. Oh. But just a frozen Coke is just going to send the blood sugars up, and then they're going to drop. And then when they have that drop, you can see that they are physically stressed. They become tired. Their mind doesn't work so well. They become irritable. So imbalance in blood sugars is a very big physical stress on the body. And that's something that people tend to forget, is in your daily habits of eating, you really, really need to be aware of how to keep your blood sugars balanced. Back to you, Sharon.
No, that's great. Thank you, Ruth. And that comes also too with, you know, skipping meals creates stress because your body's not got enough to operate. Overeating creates stress as well. So, so those are some examples of physical stress. And I think a big one that a lot of people don't realise is what we touched on with pain and injury. You know, we sometimes live with those things for a long time, but that can be causing stress on our body as well. I know at the recent workshop we did, there was actually a number of people who had said, yes, that is one of my stresses that I've been ignoring and sweeping under the carpet. So again, tonight's really just to make you more mindful of those things and that they are affecting your body, and maybe you know, you might decide after tonight that perhaps that's something that you might need to take some action on if you are living with pain and injury, or if maybe, you know, your nutrition isn't so good. Those are some things that you might actually want to work on. The second one is emotional stress. I think that's one that we can probably all relate to, you know, obviously around work, around, it might be around, you know, kids, it might be looking after aging parents, or you might have unwell family. I mean, you know, certainly at the moment, there's a lot of emotional stress that people are experiencing with, you know, going very long periods without being able to connect with family. And that, you know, that causes a lot of emotional stress, and it can cause a bit of I've sort of said lately, it's like a big grey cloud hanging over people that they can't shake. So, you know, there's some examples of relationship stress or emotional stress. I think one of the ones here to talk about is worrying, because worrying can cause a lot of emotional stress, and it is normal. You know, if you've got children or parents or someone that's sick in your family, or you're worried about work or finances, worry is very common. But I remember hearing someone say once, you know, what would happen if we took worry away for a day? And I had to really think about that, and I was like, oh, actually, nothing. Because we often spend a lot of time worrying about things that maybe might not ever happen, or we can't control. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. But a lot of emotional stress actually centers around worry, which we're going to help with some techniques that might help with that shortly.
And Sharon, can I jump in? Also, another thing, we talk a lot about, Sharon and I do a great workshop on hormone health for women. And one of the things that we often see as a big stress is the amount of pressure women put on themselves to be superwoman, super mum, super this, you know, and it's that pressure, it comes from women put it on themselves, not all women, but a lot of women. And it has a very, very big effect on your health. So that's something also to be aware of, is how much you worry, but also how much pressure you're putting on yourself. Do you really need to look perfect all the time, have the perfect house, have the perfect kids, have a full-time job, be the super mom, be the super wife, be the super friend? You know, sometimes it's not bad to just sit back and look after yourself a bit. So that's another big stress.
And that's why when, you know, we look at health, you know, there are other different models for pillars of health, but we sort of look at 5 key elements, which is, you know, nutrition, and we've talked a little bit about that tonight. The other one is exercise or movement, for those who don't like the term exercise. But the other really big one is, you know, managing stress and having strategies in place for that. It's about getting enough sleep, but it's also about self-care. And as Ruth was just saying, you know, if we're putting a lot of pressure on ourselves, often we don't make time for ourselves. Everything else will be a priority, you know, the partner, the kids, the job, you know, everything is a priority. And then we sort of, you know, come down at 4th, 5th, 6th, and we're not really looking after ourselves. So when we look at health with someone, we don't just look at, I think a lot of people think health is about exercise and nutrition. It's not. It's looking at that whole, those whole 5 areas, but also the big one that sits around it all is our mindset. And we haven't got enough time to go into all of that, but we do a workshop, which is creating your own health blueprint, where we do actually get you to explore how you're going with each of those areas, and perhaps some different changes that you might need to make. Okay, so the third one, and a lot of people don't realize this one, is chemical stress. And it's actually becoming an increasing problem, particularly in the environment that we're living in, when it comes particularly around food and artificial, you know, ingredients and so on. But, you know, some examples of ways that we're exposed to chemical stress every single day. Obviously, the environment or pollution is a really big one, just things that we can't control. But there are also people, for example, who might be in a workplace where they are surrounded by chemicals every day. You know, it might be a hairdresser or a mechanic or someone who works at a nail salon, where you're exposed to chemicals, and all those tiny amounts of chemicals that we're exposed to every day are causing us chemical stress, because those things build up in our body. The other thing is cleaning products that you might be using around the house. So, you know, going and spraying that shower with the exit mold, or getting out the bleach, you know, you think about that when you actually inhale that. A lot of people just don't realize the damage that that can be doing to your system. And the really big one that a lot of people aren't aware of is actually the chemicals that we're putting on our body every single day. So our body our skin is actually our body's largest organ. Sometimes we don't think about our skin as an organ, and 60% of what we're putting onto our body is absorbed into our bloodstream every single day. And a lot of the products that we're using, because of the regulations that basically don't exist in Australia, we're actually putting a lot of toxic ingredients into our body every single day. And if you think about how many products you might use, by the time you wash your hair and use skincare and makeup and brush your teeth and wash your hands and all that sort of thing, we actually can use up to 37 different products a day. And sometimes we're applying them up to 168 times a day. So that's lots of tiny little amounts of chemicals that we're putting on our body that are absorbed into our bloodstream every day. And that toxicity can actually cause lots of health problems, from simple things like brain fog and mild persistent headaches, right through to gut issues, hormone issues, skin conditions, and so on. And again, we don't have time to go into all of that tonight, but if you think, wow, that's actually something I'm not aware of, I'd love to know more about that, please reach out to us and we'd love to share some more information. And we do share every week on our Facebook page information about how we can try and actually low tox our lives, because Ruth, as a homeopath, there's a lot of people who are struggling with hormone issues, and a lot of that can actually be put down to toxicity. Is that correct, Ruth?
Yes, yeah, there's actually there's a famous French aromatherapist, Tisserand, and in one of his books he tells he gives an example of the effect of what we put on our skin and how it affects us. There was a village of a woman. Well, in the village, the majority of women all had hormonal issues. Every single one of them had period problems, all the young ones, and they couldn't work out why. And then they realized they were all hop pickers, and they all picked hops with bare hands. They didn't wear gloves, and hops are actually a phytoestrogen, so they were having an estrogenic effect on all these women. So it just shows you, and then they started wearing gloves. But it just shows you how what we put on our skin, really, it's absorbed into our bloodstream, and it really does have an effect, especially on our hormones and on our liver as well, because our liver has to process everything that we that goes into our bloodstream. So if you do have hormonal problems, or if you have a lot of liver problems, you do have to be very aware of the chemical stresses you're putting, not just into your body, but also onto your body. Yeah.
And the same applies for men as well. I think, we always think about women using products and so on, but men as well, and it can affect them in terms of fertility. I remember the example you gave of the sporting team with the deodorant.
Yes, yeah. So it really does affect your hormones a lot. So it's something you need to be aware of.
So what we'll get you to do now, if we will send you the little workbook, but maybe even if for now you can write down physical stresses, emotional stressors, and chemical stresses. And we're just going to give you a few minutes just to think about what might be some of the things that are causing you stress in each of those areas of your life. So we'll just put some music on and you can just spend some time thinking about that. Okay, so you can obviously take some more time to do this if you are watching it in replay, but we'll come back to that because we'll actually get you to choose some of these shortly and do a little action plan around that. But what we just wanted to talk about a little bit now was, and some of you may have seen this before, but it's what we call our circle of control. And it's kind of quite a good way to actually look at some of the different things that are affecting us in our life to make sure that we are not focusing on things that are outside of our control, and we're putting our energy into the things that we can control. So when we look at the outer side of this circle, some of the things that we can't control are things like the weather, politics, the stock market, world events. We can't control COVID. It's happening to us. We just have to learn to deal with it. Bad drivers on the road. You see so many people get stressed. I used to do this. I get so stressed and anxious about people, and I'd be worrying about being late. And it was only when I learned to go, do you know what? Like, I can't control this, and me swearing at them and cursing or whatever isn't actually going to do me any favors. Injury or illness, those things happen. And then when it does, we need to look at, okay, well, what can we do now that's happened that we can control? Other people's opinions, attitudes, actions, beliefs, and ideas is a really big one. And I think a lot of the time when it comes to perhaps making changes in our life, we worry about what other people think. And I remember someone saying to me once, when I actually was looking at making a change from corporate to my own business, and I had some real anxiety over that. And I was one of the reasons was I was worried what people would think. And I remember she said to me, Sharon, other people don't lie awake at night in bed and worry about your problems. They've got their own problems to worry about. They're not thinking about what you're doing. So I think that's the other thing is, just remembering that this is your life and only you have to deal with the issues that are on your plate right now. So what other people think about what you're doing and the actions that you might take and how you want to run your life is actually not really any of your business. And it's actually, you shouldn't let that affect you doing what you need to do if it's something that you feel strongly that you need to change in your life. And I think sometimes we can let that overly influence us. So they're things that are outside of our control. On the inside, we've got the things that we can influence. So that might be people in your life. It might be being able to influence your family, your children, your co-workers, and your friends. But also to, again, we can't necessarily change those things. We might be able to influence to a certain degree, but I always say you can only take 50% of the responsibility for anything that happens in a relationship. So it might be, you might communicate something that might be causing stress for you or whatever, but then it's up to that other person to be able to engage in that communication. So there are certain things that we can influence, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we can change them. And then in the middle section here is the things that you can control. So these are the things where you can actually make a difference or choose to do something differently if it's important enough to you. So it might be how you manage your finances. It's definitely your time management, like it's your day. And yes, I mean, you might need to be at work at a certain time or be, picking people up at a certain time or have commitments. But all that other time around that is up to you. What time you go to bed, what time you get up in the morning, how you choose to spend the other hours in the day that do belong to you. We can control our diet or our nutrition. We can choose what we put in the fridge and what we put in our mouth. We can control our exercise, whether we actually do that or not. And I know that it might take willpower, but it is something that's within our control. A big one for me was rest and sleep. Like I was letting myself get caught into a really bad habit of just there was always something more to do. And I got to a point where I decided that at nighttime, when we had dinner as a family, that was it. There was no more work. So we can control that. We can control what time we go to bed at night and what time we get up in the morning and how much time we give ourselves to rest and sleep. We can control our attitude. And that's a really big one. So, two people can be in exactly the same situation. One might view it, one way, in a positive way. One might view it in a negative way. So we can actually choose how we respond to different situations. We can choose, our spiritual focus or the sorts of things that we listen to and what we read. And I think that's a really important one. And just going back to the one about things you can influence, the people in your life, we are very much influenced by the people that we hang around. If you're hanging around with people who are highly stressed, that might be really negative, that's going to affect you as well. And sometimes we might need to actually make a choice, to surround ourselves with some people that actually will lift us up and have a really positive influence on our lives. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean you're going to go and, if it's family or whatever, you can't necessarily go and kick them out of your life. But what can be good is sometimes to maybe go and take a break and go and hang out with someone who makes you laugh or helps you refill your cup as well. Because Again, those things are going to influence, your stress levels and how you're feeling as well. And we can also control what we say, our actions, where we live and where we work. And I think this is a really good model to look at. So sometimes when we've got an issue or a problem in our life or a stress, we can look at that and go, okay, what are the bits that I can't control? And what are the things that I actually can influence or I can control? Because sometimes that is where we can get back the power. Sometimes we can think, oh my gosh, it's hopeless. I'm injured. I can't do anything. And we feel like we're stuck. But maybe approaching it from a more positive way where we say, okay, this has happened, but what can I do within what's happened? What are some ways that, even I know when I've been injured before, I might not be able to do the things I want to do, but it doesn't mean that I can't still find a way to exercise. I can look at, okay, well, how can I use this time to be productive or whatever it is? So we can find a positive in those situations if we actually start to look at the things that we can control. Is there anything that you'd like to add there, Ruth?
Yeah, my husband, he's got a very good little thing he does when there's something stressful going on. He says to himself, is there anything I can do about this right now? Can I change it right now? And if the answer's no, then put it on the shelf and stop thinking about it. And I think that's quite a good thing, especially things like, say, the weather or world events, or even, it sounds quite callous, but I mean, I have family in other countries, worrying about family in other countries. You can lie awake all night worrying, but there's nothing you can actually do in the middle of the night to change anything. So there's no point. Sometimes you actually just have to say to yourself, can I do anything right now whilst it's 2:00 in the morning? No, I can't. Okay, then just put it away. So I think it's important that the circle and just realizing what you can control and what you can't. And in terms of what you can control, one of the best things in terms of your health is setting up routines and setting up habits when you're in a good place to protect you, so that when you do have because stress happens, bad things happen, and if you have a routine of exercising, of routine of self-care, of looking after yourself, if you tend to go to bed at the same time every night, if you have that supportive network of friends, if you eat healthily, then when a stressful event happens that you cannot control, you will be able to get through it. You'll be able to cope because you've got all those little mechanisms already in place. And that's really what we want with this workshop today, is for you to firstly recognize the small stresses that are occurring in your daily life that you don't really need to be there and that you can control. So like I mentioned earlier, not having food in the fridge at night. That is something I can just be, I've got to practice what I preach, but I can be better organized. Sharon, on the weekend, she does her supermarket shopping and she plans what they're going to eat for the week. And then she has no stress in the evenings when she has to cook dinner. So if tonight you can recognize what causes you stress and how you can adjust that or change that, then when big stresses happen, you'll be able to cope a lot better.
Absolutely. So in your little handout, or you can just write it down on a page, there's actually what changes will I make? And we'd love you to just think about, okay, when it comes to the physical stresses that you wrote down earlier, the emotional stresses and the chemical stresses, think about what's one thing I could do right now in each of those areas. Because again, if you try to change everything, it won't happen. So if, for example, when it comes to physical stress, my eating habits aren't great right now. Maybe that there might be one thing that you can change on that. It might be, you skip breakfast. So maybe it could be starting your day with a really healthy breakfast, or you're drinking too much coffee. It might be looking at cutting down, even if it's just by 1 cup a day. Or it might be if you've got an injury and that you've been neglecting for a while, maybe you need to actually go and seek some treatment to actually deal with that pain so it's not causing you stress. So think about the things that you wrote down. We'll give you some time to just actually write down some actions. So one thing that you'll do to help with the physical stresses, the emotional stresses, and the chemical stresses in your life.
And whilst you're writing it down, people often try to, they start a new diet, or they start a new healthy lifestyle, and they just try and change everything in one go. And then sometimes after a week, sometimes after 2 weeks, they just go back to their old habits. So if you can just change one thing and just focus on that, and once you've conquered that, once you've changed it, then you can change something else. You'll realize that it's small little steps towards progress. When I was young, we climbed Kilimanjaro, which is a beautiful, huge mountain in Africa. And they have a saying, it's in Swahili, it's pole pole. It's slowly, it's one step at a time. And so see your health as climbing a mountain, just one step at a time. Don't try and leap up to the top.
I love that saying, healthy living is a journey, not a destination.
Yes,
To be sustainable, I think, when people do big things, it's not sustainable, it's not realistic. And if you just see that, you've got your whole life ahead of you and you've got time that you can implement these changes, and it being a journey, not a huge rush, that's when people do blow up.
Yeah. Should we carry on? I think hopefully you guys have all written.
Okay, so a couple of tips for managing stress. Just a few little thoughts to leave you with. Number one is mind your mind, and it kind of goes a little bit to what I was saying before about, the people that you're hanging around with, the things that you're filling your mind with. So I know for me, like personal development and the things that I listen to, like I'm always listening to audiobooks and podcasts and things. I'd much rather listen to that than the news. And I don't really love hanging out with people who are whinging and complaining all the time and bringing me down. So I guess just maybe think about, okay, what am I filling my mind with? Because if you're filling your mind with, negative things or things that cause you stress, that's just going to add to your problems as well. I think the other one on that too is, often we're very unkind to ourselves. The things that we say to ourselves, we'll have a lot of negative self-talk. And an exercise I like to do with people is to actually, and you might want to go away and do this, is actually think about all the negative things that you say to yourself, because we can actually sabotage a lot of us achieving our own goals with our self-talk. So particularly, I often hear women do it around, their body and the things that they say, or, oh, I'm lazy, or, I hate going to the gym. And we just say all these negative things to ourselves. I hate my body. I can't do that. I'm fat. All those things are never going to help you to move forward. So when you catch yourself saying something negative, write it down and then reframe it into a positive. There's no good saying every day, oh, I'm so tired. Like I say to myself every day, I'm so grateful for my fit, strong, healthy body, because that's what I want. There's no point getting around going, oh, I'm tired, I'm getting old, I'm aching. Even, that might be half true, but I'd rather fill myself with something positive, because it has such a big impact on your day and your whole mindset around the changes that you're doing. So, my one with time management, like I'm not very good with that, as I've said earlier. So one of mine is, I don't say I'm the most organized person in the world. I say every day I'm getting more and more organized. So instead of keeping on saying I'm so disorganized, I'm always running late, I say I love being on time. So I'm trying to actually reframe the things that I tell myself so that I'm focusing on what I want rather than what I don't want. Did you want to add anything there, Ruth?
Yeah, no, I also, what I often tell people is to be your own best friend. So talk to yourself as you would talk to your best friend. We can be so cruel and so unkind to ourselves, but we would never be like that towards someone we love or towards a friend. So yeah, you've got to start talking kindly to yourself, and treating yourself kindly. No one else is ever going to do it if you don't. Yeah.
That's very true, actually. I just had the same conversation with someone about that today. Allow yourself to be treated that way, then people will take advantage of you. So you do need to, and that's probably jumping ahead, but set boundaries, I think.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah, we need to fill our own cup. Sometimes we can be giving out so much. We give out to work, we give out to our partner, we give out to our children, we give out to our parents, we give out to our friends. And sometimes we get to that point where we can be really depleted. And Ruth is excellent at this.
Yeah.
And she's taught me a lot about that as well, that self-care isn't a luxury.
No, it's a necessity. You have to, otherwise you just burn out. And I see it in people all the time. And people who burn out and get chronic fatigue, they're not lazy people who lie on the couch. They're the people who are always busy, always doing, always giving to other people. And you can't just, you're not a bottomless well. You're not. You have to fill up your own cup if you want to give to other people. There's just nothing else to it. So yeah.
And I think the thing with that one is it's finding the ways that you can actually refill your cup. For some people, it might be going for a walk, or getting up early and just spending some time meditating or listening to a personal development book or journaling. Ruth thinks I'm crazy, but honestly, my favorite thing to de-stress is to actually go for a 3K swim. I love that. Like, other people are like, oh my gosh, that's exercise, that's crazy, that's torture.
Yeah.
And we're all different. Yoga, some people love yoga. I'd rather go for a swim. And I think that's the thing with stress, is don't feel like you have to do certain things because that's what other people are doing to manage stress. Find the thing that helps you to unwind, to help you to actually refill your cup, because it's different for everyone. We're all different, and it's okay that it's different. Find that thing and make sure you schedule time in for it, because otherwise it will not happen. I talked before about setting boundaries. Sometimes we need to be able to say no. And no is a perfectly acceptable answer. And no also is, a complete sentence. I think we often justify things, but we need to put boundaries around our time. And it's okay sometimes to say, do you know what, like, this is actually really important to me. And as much as I might like to go and do that or help you with that, I need to do this because I know that if I don't, I'm going to burn out. You don't need to explain all that thinking. No, not today, but could I take a rain check is a totally, acceptable thing to say to someone. Blocking out time as well is really important. So if we don't schedule in that self-care, it's there. And again, like with my swimming, Thursday afternoons, that's my time. I might flip it to the morning, but it happens that day, and it's not negotiable for me because I know, and my family know that things operate way better. I'm a way better person when I've gone for that swim, because I've managed to, offload some of that stress. Otherwise, it's like I end up like one of those wound up tops. And then, that's what happens when we flip our lid. And we need to block out the time. We need to not feel like we're indulging. Like if you need to go to yoga or you want to go for a float tank. Yeah.
What I do is on a Friday afternoon, I lie on the couch and I watch a chick flick. That's what I do. And then we have pizza for dinner, so I don't have to cook. And it's heavenly. It's lovely. That's how I fill my cup.
And I think, sometimes we feel guilty for doing that. We feel guilty for sitting on the couch or whatever. And I think that's where, asking for help and putting yourself first is really important. So it's okay to say, you might need to say to your family, listen, I need some time out. So every Friday afternoon, I'm going to spend an hour on the couch. Go figure out your own thing, but this is what I'm doing. I know, when I had my children, I really wanted to continue my swimming. And so as much as I don't like asking for help, I succumbed, and I asked my husband and my mum if they would look after my daughter so I could actually still get that in, because it was important to me, and it's okay to ask for help and take help. And I think, again, with that whole superhero syndrome that Ruth was talking about, we often, particularly as women, we think we have to do everything. Get the kids to empty the dishwasher, take the washing off the line, whatever it is. Ask for help. It's okay. I think one of the big things we often find in these workshops is just that reminder that you're a person and you've got a life and you've got a right to. You're not just here for everyone else to be, to be serving and helping everyone else. Sometimes you need to actually put yourself first, and it's okay. And in fact, it's actually a really good role model for anyone who has got children. It's really good for them to see that, you put yourself first at times as well. Otherwise, those patterns actually tend to repeat themselves. Is there anything you'd like to add there, Ruth?
Nope, you've said it all. Thank you.
Get off my high horse now.
No, it's so true. That the difficult thing is actually putting it into reality, putting it into practice. Hey, it's we know we've got to look after ourselves. We know we've got to fill our own cups, but it can be very difficult to do it, and that's why doing things like this workshop tonight, you're actually just giving yourselves an hour of time for yourself, and hopefully after tonight you'll take some of this time and every day just take a few minutes to yourself, or once a week do something special, invest in your health, really look after yourself rather than always just giving your energy away. Yeah.
And I think Ruth touched on this earlier, is, it is really about putting in place healthy habits, and actually making the change, or it won't happen by itself. And first we first make our habits, and then our habits make us. And in our little handout, we've got a little health checklist that we often will say to people: write something down, a little habit that you'll do around nutrition, or around exercise or movement, if you like, around sleep. It might be, okay, I will go to bed by 10 o'clock or 10:30, whatever it is, around stress management and around self-care, just so that you are always mindful of those important steps that we look at, in terms of overall health, and just committing some little actions that can become habits as part of that every single day. So that's a little thing that you can download from our website, pop on your fridge, just to keep you focusing on the daily things that you can do that can actually, as we said, all stack up and help to make some really healthy habits.
Yeah. And sometimes when you first make these changes, it can be quite difficult. It can feel quite strange or foreign. But that's why I think about what you want to write on those lists, and just choose something that will impact your life, and that will make a difference. And a little example is, I told Sharon about this the other week, is I used to have a real problem checking my phone, checking my emails just before I got into bed at night. And then I would wake up in the middle of the night thinking about work and stuff. And I made a decision, a family decision, which no one else in my family likes, but all phones come into my office 7 o'clock at night, and it was so difficult at first. And for me, I kept wanting to check it, because it's a habit of just checking your phone all the time. So it was really difficult to break, but now it's easy, and it's made such a difference to our whole family life, and also to my sleep as well, because I'm not checking work emails just before I go to sleep at night. So choose your habits wisely, and then work at them, and they'll become easier.
I love that. Such a good example. And that's a whole nother topic that we can talk about, is sleep. And we might do another.
My teenage daughters still haven't made it a habit.
I love that you stuck with it, because you are absolutely right. It feels uncomfortable and awkward at first. But we've got to stick with it. And before you know it, it actually becomes, a lot easier, and it's part of, what you do now.
Yes. Yeah. Alrighty, well, that's us. Thanks everyone for joining tonight. If you've got any questions, please just ask away. And for those of you who are watching this recording at another time, thank you so much for spending some time with us. We're constantly running workshops. The main ones we run are on gut health, helping you, actually really educating you about the gut and how it works, about topics like leaky gut and dysbiosis, or an overgrowth in your microbiome, and the connection between your mental health and your gut health. So that's gut health, and we run one on hormones. It is, I'm afraid, mainly for women because hormones are often a problem with women, and we really look at changes you can make at home to improve your hormone health. And then we do a lovely workshop on menopause as well. That's a really, really fun workshop where we help you make small changes that hopefully have big effects on the whole menopause journey. And then our last one is the health blueprint, which Sharon spoke about earlier, where we help you look at your health, the overall picture of your health, and basically you make a business plan or a financial plan where you look at where you are now and where you want to be in a year's time or in 5 years' time, and what steps you need to take to get there. So it's an awesome workshop, and it really, really can help you change your health, because sometimes it's difficult to know where to start. So those are the workshops we do, and hopefully we'll see some of you on them.
Awesome. So make sure you follow our page, the Health Lounge Online, because if we're doing any more online workshops and our in-person workshops, we'll share them on our page as well.
And subscribe to our newsletter. Every week we send out just some short newsletter with little healthy tips, and that can make real changes. So yeah. Okay.
Right. Thanks, Ruth. Thanks so much, everyone. And
thanks, Sharon.
I hope you got something out of tonight, and go and stress less and live more. Good night.
Okay. Good night, everyone. Take care. Bye.